Hey,
welcome
yo.
back.
Let's just distort the shit out of this thing.
No, it's for the sake of the recording.
Clip it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Producer Lounge. This is episode 18. Special guest, MiMi XX, also known as MiMi Dos Equis or MiMi
Big Dickies.
And my name is Caleb. Over here on my right is Austin.
Is
and then
everybody?
further right is Dave. And we are always 400. And the show is brought to you by them. Us. All of us together.
It's true.
And that's why we're here today, to talk about music production.
Big up.
Because that's what we do on the show. If you didn't know that by now,
Right.
I'm sorry, but we do. That's the point of the show, is music production, and music production is the point.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. The point of this
Heard.
show is specifically music production, and it is the point of the show.
Specifically.
No tangents.
Mm-hmm.
No tangents.
Specifically, no tangents.
Yep. Yep.
In terms of what the show is about, and that is music production.
Yeah, we're
Proud of that one.
live on Twitch, as a couple people know, and we'll take questions. If you have questions,
Oh.
Shit, Izzy J.
oh shit,
This is our
Jure.
My brother.
Jure.
oh nice.
Oh, sick. What's
So,
up?
homeboy.
Yeah.
Yep. If you have questions, anybody listening on Twitch, we do this every Tuesday. We will answer these questions specifically, obviously about music and production.
But
That's
we'll
what the show's
We'll
about.
talk about your life. We could roast people here and there. you know.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Start it off. Who you want to roast?
This guy.
God.
God.
Oh,
He is the techno god. That is true. No.
yeah.
He's more like the techno guardian, if anything.
He looks like he
Right.
got in
That
a
dude.
wrestling match with a shitty tattoo artist. I don't know.
Don't let him hear you say that. Fuck you up, dude. You're never getting into that club.
We were roasting, weren't we?
Yeah, I thought we were roasting. We were roasting God there.
Sorry, God.
Goddamn.
Psych. We're not sorry.
So, I know you guys have topics just spewing out of you.
As always,
Outside of
we
roasting
always
God.
come with a book of just topic after topic.
Yeah. The notebook's filling up.
It is.
Yeah, we can't do this podcast enough to give out all this information that we keep writing down and putting away in this.
Keep
Yeah.
accumulating.
Yeah.
Well, let me start us off. Excuse me, Reese's, folks. Let me start us off by asking, what's your
OTT.
that could work. Your go-to method for drum processing, like your basic first pass at drums.
Drum bus.
Yeah. Yep.
The bus or the
Yes.
everything?
Yes. Yeah, like everything, like all the
Oh,
drums.
I thought you were saying drum.
Like what's happening
drum
on the
bus,
drum bus.
Plug-in, the stock
Yeah,
plug-in.
like not just your snare,
Oh.
like the
No,
whole
I don't-
thing.
I don't use.
After all the individual
Ableton
noises are sculpted
players.
already.
Yeah,
or
yeah. Like what do you do to your whole drum chain, drum channel, drum track, drum bus with two S's? Buzz.
Well, usually the way I start off is add some reverb, usually 20 seconds or longer. You're going to want to go at least 75%.
It's a solid choice, yeah.
Yeah.
In a cavern.
Yeah, basically at a certain point you just want all the noise to blend into one kind of sound. You don't even want to hear the drums.
And then you low pass them, and then you add your techno kick,
Mm.
And then it boosts through the noise.
and you're good to go.
Yeah, no, that's not the method. Someone else start. I don't want to start.
Drum processing.
Yeah, just like basic. Like,
Yeah, so limit everything.
mhm.
Everything gets limited.
on the way into it.
Yeah, each individual element is getting limited and then set at the correct level, basically whatever
You want
seems
it to be
right.
Yeah.
And then, there will be EQs on all of those. There will be saturation on all of those. and then it's going to happen again in the bus,
Yep.
in the grouped up bunch of things. There's
Is
going to
it
be
like EQ first, then you satch, then you decide?
That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's always the thing.
That's how I'm sparking our brains.
I'm
to start
probably
pod,
hitting,
bro.
I'm probably hitting a limiter, grabbing a little bit, just a little like dB or two. And I recently have been doing a multi-band clipping kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just like separate the low, mid, high into different clippers and clip them separately, because you can clip the fuck out of high shit. High end is very, very easy to clip, and it doesn't sound like anything happens when you do it.
Right.
And then, it gets more and more obvious the lower you go. So if you just don't need to be clipping your sub on the kick all that much, and then you get a little more clippage in the mid range, and then a lot of clipping on the highs, and then you can bring up the mid and the high a little bit more because of that, and it'll just be crispy.
Do you do a lot of dual channel
It'll
processing
just be
when you're
crispy.
doing this, or is this like all on one track? Are you using send tracks or anything like that?
Like a grouped drum.
So it's going through multiple layers. It's not just on like the main one.
Right.
Yeah.
I have another question that I'm interested in. So lately I've been getting a lot more into, I think the first thing about drums, right, is just picking the right drum samples to begin with. Like actually picking
the source
stuff that hits
material.
good. Then you got to get into layering, and all that turns to taste. But I am interested in, I don't really limit, I'm definitely limiting everything at the end in electronic music production. But at the beginning, I kind of just mix in my kick and snare to 0 or to -6, depending on which gain structure I'm using. And I'm not doing much processing like after that. And then everything on the drum channel, to go back to your initial question, is happening in like multiple layers within Ableton.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I usually do like some, New York style compression,
Yeah.
just some like heavy glue
That's
compression.
always
that,
nice.
Yeah.
that'll give it that saturation. Different ways to saturate, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm not even really adding reverb there. I do reverb kind of at the later stages of mixing, but
Yeah, it's fair.
that's my technique. I usually just get good drum samples, and then
Get good.
And then I do. I usually maybe another compressor just to kind of soft clip at the end, just to level everything out. But I feel like a lot of that leveling, more and more, what I'm doing these days is a lot more intentional, with just kind of balancing in the actual channel volume more so than fixing the volume at a limiter or compressor these days.
Yeah. I think of limiting more of, I want more headroom, but I want it to sound louder.
And doesn't it go back to everything where it's just like every single song is totally different?
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, well,
One thing
yeah,
to
if you're
take
making
in
bangers,
mind.
if you're making bangers, limit the shit out of all the drums.
Yeah.
Because then they just have more frequency content, and they aren't as loud because of that.
But they
Yeah.
are at the same time.
But you could turn them down a bunch
Yeah, exactly.
because they're all limited. You can turn them down, and they're just like a chonky dude, just like coming up to whatever the point is that you put them there. Whereas like something that has like a lot of transient and a lot of, obviously if you pick a drum sample that's really limited already, then you don't have to do anything because it's already smashed to fuck,
True.
which a lot
If
of the
it's
samples
processed.
that you choose are, you know,
Yeah.
when you're going through like a splice library or some shit like that.
For sure.
I will typically make my drums though, I'll use samples, but I'll be adding layers and shit like that. So at that point, I do want to limit or clip, one of the two. Just somehow be pushing it into something, so it's just a fat fucking knock
A little
of
sausage.
a sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just needs to
little
just
sausage.
like it's the drums. It has to fucking poke through everything.
Yeah.
Do you guys know the difference between clipping and limiting? Is there even? Because they're doing the same thing, right? But there's got to be something. That's why they're.
I mean,
called different things.
limiting is like a form of clipping.
Limiting is a
clipping it
compressor.
in the digital realm is when it exceeds like absolute zero, either positive or negative in terms of the waveform. So you get the same effect as limiting, but it's at the volume threshold that the software and digital processing can understand the waveform. That makes any sense. So you can do the same thing with limiting at a different threshold, but just in terms of like what a speaker can physically recreate or something like that, when you reach that threshold, that's when you'll get to digital clipping.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So you can clip at a different volume than that with a limiter.
Limiting is
That's what
traditionally
okay.
it is a volume. It's a compressor. It's the same thing as a compressor. It's just
Yeah, it's
super
really-
fucking fast.
Yeah, it's super fast.
So it's just turning it down whenever it gets above the threshold. Clipping is literally what the waveform looks like. If you clip it, it just makes it flat. It just flattens the waveform.
Yeah, wherever it is,
It's a
wherever the
very different
waveform is,
thing.
when it comes to -0 or whatever, it just decapitates it.
Yeah.
Slices it.
Yep, squares it off.
Yeah, distorts it.
Which you will get that effect with a limiter too. For sure.
Especially if like a negative infinite to zero ratio or something like that. I know a limiter is technically considered compression. Anything over, I think it's 10-1, that ratio, and then it turns into a limiter. But once you're getting into like those infinite ones where it's just absolute volumes, it's the same thing that's happening at digital clipping. The easiest way is to imagine just a sine wave and then just lines cutting off the tops that turn it into a square wave.
Yeah. Just into the square kind of thing.
And the limiter and digital clipping will both do the same thing.
Yeah.
Maybe in different ways, but
It'll sound different.
It'll definitely sound different. It's not being processed the same way, but
Yeah. Limiting is trying to not give you that extra saturation artifacts as much as possible. It's trying to
Right, it's trying to preserve the
the way it sounds.
yeah, right, the whole
But
audio.
also turn it down at the same time. Whereas like a clipper, literally
Does
you
not
get, you
care.
get that like corner where it gets cut off and then the waveform starts going up. That corner, that sharp corner, gives you that high end buzz
right,
that you hear from the speaker moving really fast
right,
in that over and over and over again, obviously.
Right.
Really fast.
it'd be an interesting test to do with an oscilloscope to actually like view the differences of them.
We could do that.
That'd be a cool test
It'd
because
be pretty easy.
I'd be interested in seeing it.
we can pull that up, folks.
Yeah. Might as
Fucking do
well.
it. We could also
Okay,
talk
wait.
about compressors while we're at it
Oh, yeah.
after we get done with that.
What do
'cause
you
I
want to
did
talk
wanna
about compressors again?
compressors.
There's a couple things, right? Are
Yeah,
are
I want
gonna
to talk
trade
about
test?
like the couple ways that I think compressors are useful. Because I've kind of narrowed it down at this point to a point where it's like there's only a few situations where I'm using a compressor,
Yeah,
you know. And I wanted to explain the look ahead
yeah.
thing. But
Whenever-
let's save it for after the
Little example.
limiter test.
Right. Whenever Ableton decides to open. We're just waiting here, folks. Classic Ableton. Taking its sweet time.
We got God over here over our shoulder. Not anymore. Dun dun dun. Oh, I mean,
Hey.
it's not Bitwig.
You're right. You know what's nice about Bitwig is you can delete all the tracks. You can just get rid of everything, and it doesn't care
That is
that
kinda
there's
nice.
nothing in there. Yeah, it's pretty nice. It's just
I'm
a
into
little
a s-
quality of life.
I do
It's
like
a little-
aesthetically pleasing and like blank slates, and it's a bummer that Ableton never lets you get there.
Yeah, yeah. It's not. It's never a true blank slate.
Yeah, you have to have something
Yeah,
open.
it's fake. It's bullshit.
That's so funny.
You're fake, Ableton.
It's
No, I'm kidding.
hilarious.
I'm kidding.
We love you.
All right.
Ableton.
So what do we want to do this with? Just like a sine wave?
So we need to digitally clip something and show what that looks like in a recorded audio track, and then we need
maybe
to
do like a bass loop or something.
just like a straight sine wave, right? Turn it into a square,
You could do that.
and then run the same test with a limiter. And we'll probably fuck up in terms of like matching volume to do a 100% comparison.
But
That'll
we'll
be
get the
easy.
idea from it.
We can do the exact same volume easy.
Okay, you'll have to think through that one because your brain works better on. Whoa, that's a weird skin.
I know.
Serum 98, baby.
Yeah, that's a classic era right there of Serum.
I thought you guys were serious for a second. I don't use Serum.
I don't either that often, to be honest.
This might also be a hard test in Ableton because on the channel strip, Ableton uses a floating point scale. So the digital clipping, you have to send it through the master. The master.
Oh.
Right. The master will clip.
So you'll just have to go to resampling mode because if you send it through the channel,
Yeah,
Ableton can get way louder than 0.
There might be a Sonar Works on that master too.
Yeah, I need to look at it. There definitely is. And an oscilloscope.
Oh, boom. Oh, but you need it after.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Won't matter today. So we're going to... We could just clip it on the master.
Yeah, well, if you just...
You just do
You know what
one
you're doing.
version with the limiter on, one version with the limiter off, and both set to 0, right?
Yeah.
We should do limiter at 2 different ratios. We should do it at like 15 to 1 and then infinite to 1.
I mean, limiters are always infinite. No?
You are correct, like essentially, but no. I think compression, technically, if you get into like, is it can turn into a limiter anything over like a 10 to 1 ratio. That's a
I thought just limiting just meant it does not go above this.
okay.
Like,
Yes.
it
Yeah,
just
which would
does
be an
not go.
infinite ratio.
That's-
Yeah. You're just hitting the wall.
But I don't-
Right, it's a brick wall limiter.
Most things over
No
like
technical.
I don't know if 10's the right number, but most things over 10, like even though it's a little curved, like it's just not that hard angle. It's,
Gotcha.
That's still
It's got a little bit of a soft
still
curve.
A
Yeah, it's like
gnarly-
Yeah.
a soft
limiting
clip.
the shit out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get in here, folks. And make sure we're getting... That's gonna drive me nuts. Oh, it's right there.
So this is recording just out of Pro L. Clip through that.
Yes, the Pro L.
It will, yeah.
It will here in a second once we... The only thing is we might want to...
You can just turn it up, right?
Yeah.
Look, it's
We need to turn down the...
Well, then you can't clip.
a shitty test. That's
well,
interesting.
You can just
that it's-
record it without hearing it.
It's still a sine.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It's not recording.
Oh, I thought it was.
I'm like, it doesn't sound like a sine wave.
It is, though?
You wanna know what it is? I think it's
There it is.
Yeah, because the one's so
It's because
There
it's
we go.
turned down, so it's not loud in our headphones. It looks all small because it is
Right.
quiet.
But I have to have it quieter. We're just going to blow out the stream.
Dude, let's definitely blow out the ears. It's closer to a square. So it's not a perfect square though. That's definitely still got some shape to it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
That's
digital?
That's transparent.
That's the limiter.
Oh,
that's
that's
the
the
limiter.
limiter.
So digital clip-in's probably gonna be like a hard square.
That's with the transparent all the way open.
There's no ratio settings, right? It's just infinite.
No, but
Also, you need to know how much you're pushing into it so you can push it the same amount into the master, right? To digital.
Well, no,
clip
we're
it.
just trying to establish digital clipping at this point, so we just got to get above 0 on the master. Or are you talking about the limiting one we just did?
I'm just talking about to compare them. You need to do it the same, right?
How would we set 0 lower? That one wasn't recorded above.
right. I think that's what he's saying.
You just have to know how much you pushed it into the limiter. That's all. And then push the exact same amount into the master.
30.
Well, no.
Plus 30.
You didn't push it in by 30.
Oh, you're saying because it didn't start hitting the limiter?
Right.
until
It
a
didn't
certain-
hit at 0. So
I see. Okay.
You pushed it in at like...
Oh, yeah, that does definitely change it, huh?
It would make a difference if we're trying to do like a comparison situation.
I knew the volume
Right.
difference was going to be a little bit difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Well, especially while we're... What's going on here? Did I turn the limiter off? I did. -18?
Yeah, there you go. So
So then clip
basically
it
you
by
just
plus
hit
18?
Yeah. Hit the channel at plus 18.
Oh, this? Or, wait.
Just the sign
Before it
thing,
hits
right?
the end of the master, it has to be 18 decibels over 0.
And you can do that at the
Before
channel
it
strip.
hits
The
the
channel
end.
strip will measure 18 decibels over 0.
Yeah.
Is,
I think so.
Is there a...
Oh, you boys getting scientific. This
You-
is turning into like a very
All you do is go to the channel itself in the other view,
Oh, and the other... I was like, that only goes to plus 6.
and then you look at
Add a
the
utility.
little thing that shows -12 point whatever right now.
Right.
You just make that say 18. Turn it up and
Right,
it
right.
says
Okay, so you just
18
use
and then
gain.
do a remaster.
I thought you guys meant there's like a channel plug-in for
Oh.
Ableton that turns
I
up
just
to
mean-
plus 18, and I was like, what the fuck?
push it. I just
I'm
meant
so
push it into the
Right, into itself.
master
start
as
showing
hard
that
as
it's
you
18.
pushed it into the limiter.
Right.
Yeah.
To show the difference.
Only thing is we're going to have to get like... It's gonna have to,
Is it going to record good though? Because its floating point, it probably doesn't cut it off at all.
Dude, I don't know if this is a good
It's
test.
not even going to digital clip it.
I don't think
there's
it will
floating
either.
point.
It's just going to destroy the stream with just loudness.
Well, you could record it without hearing it. But
You got to go 18 over on the master and record
it's
it without
definitely
hearing it.
very different than what that
Right.
squared off looking shit was
Well,
from the limiter.
the limiter still had shape. I was actually more.
Oh, yeah.
I was surprised on that. I wasn't expecting
Yeah,
it to
no,
still be
for
so
sure.
rounded.
Mm-hmm.
I
Right.
mean,
Because
Boosting
Pro
it
L's a
plus 18.
solid fucking limiter too. Like,
You could hit
Yeah.
just like a wave shaper.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to say just find
And
a clipper.
that's what I originally...
Yeah, do that.
I would be
Planned to
curious,
do.
though, to just
I was
boost it
trying to
into-
go with Vic's master digital clipping thing.
Yeah, I just... Yeah, that seems like a lot of work to just put a clipper on the channel.
Maybe if you're in the flow of Ableton still, it would be different. I feel like it's not a lot of work at all. But I don't think it's going to digitally clip
so do you
on
think
the
all your
master if
listen-
you re-sample it. I don't think it would.
You're coming out the floating point scale? I don't know either.
Yeah.
So do you think all your listeners would understand like why this is cool, that you can like turn like a sine wave into like very different waveforms and stuff? Because these tests are
clear-
only
they better
worthwhile
great.
to like
Oh, yeah, there's a couple people out there who are, like, fucking getting off on this.
sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like
Because it's
sure.
like that's what's cool about the test, right? Like,
Yeah.
that you,
Yeah.
Turn this down.
yeah, that
squared
that's
up.
hard clipping.
Okay. Okay.
So it makes a completely squared off. That's why you get that really high, very specific overtone. The little zzz.
You can make it soft. Where's the line at? I can't see it. There it is. So it's just starting to soft clip there at the top. It's so small. And you push it in, it just starts. Oh, of course. It's a brick wall.
That is a brick wall.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So limiting didn't get us there.
Limiting
Yeah.
is doing a much more graceful job than clipping will.
Yeah.
definitely.
Well, that was also
Probably
on transparent as well.
right.
That's true. That's true.
You're going to have some artifacts, period. So there will be a lot of times limiters will have different settings, which are different types of like models of limiters, or like the Pro L has a bunch of different random like models of limiters
Right.
that you could choose from, and they will all give you a little bit different coloring. And that's just supposed to, like sometimes one color is going to work better for a track than another based on whatever the frequency content is.
Mm-hmm.
And how hard
know.
you're slamming it.
Yeah, and then like there's like attack and release like differences, I feel like,
Yeah.
with them. There's like the punchy one that gives you a little bit more of that. I don't understand it, honestly.
I don't know either.
Like,
I just
maybe
know
it
if you.
stops it and then compresses it on top of it a little bit or something. It's
All I
weird.
know is if you open the attack, it goes more clippy. It's like more obviously
on a
just
punch.
on just any of them. You just open the attack more, and it gets closer to like actually just clipping it and not giving a
Right.
fuck about what the audio is. Where a faster attack, it'll still do its job, but it's trying to
Yeah.
keep the quality.
Yeah, release too is big on that. If you
Yeah.
have a really fast release, a fast release will be will distort more than a slow release will distort.
It's trying to go really
Yeah,
fucking
it's
fast.
just-
it's trying to go really fast.
Trying to keep back down, and then you get a lot of.
How fast of a release do you trust, like Pro L or like most limiters? Is there like a general number that you'll trust them on, like the release time, where it should not go lower?
I
than,
put it at like 11 o'clock usually.
I was
Whatever
expecting
number
like
that
a
is.
millisecond. That's funny that you did it by like a time.
Well, like,
Is this?
yeah.
What is that?
260.
Something like that.
Yeah, that's usually where I am. My default setting is 260.
Open up the
milliseconds.
Ableton limiter just so I can see where the 11 o'clock is on that. If that's just like a
I
good
probably
rule,
wouldn't
11 o'clock.
I probably wouldn't
It might
treat
be.
the Ableton.
Dude, like I know 30 to like
Limiter the
45%
same
dry
way,
wet is like
honestly.
always sweet to try out.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. 300. Yep.
So yeah, it goes up.
That's not 11 o'clock though.
No, but what is 11 o'clock on the Ableton limiter?
0.42.
Super fast.
Still good. Still good. Try 11 o'clock. I'm sold.
I know.
What? That has nothing to do with it.
Just hey, folks. If you're ever wondering where to set your release on your limiter, 11 o'clock
11
every
o'clock.
time.
No matter what situation,
400%.
it'll work.
I am sold.
Yeah,
like-
11 o'clock, dude.
I feel like both of those could yield good results.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Limiting versus clipping.
Yeah, that was interesting.
That might be.
I had fun with that.
Yeah, that was a good first topic. That went deep
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever gone that deep with you guys that quick.
Yeah.
I just want to know your drum processing.
Yeah.
New
And
York
it went
style
there.
compression. New York style compression. 11 o'clock. Blend it.
Let's go. Let's go.
There you
folks.
go.
11 o'clock.
Easy.
You heard it.
Oh God.
It's the vibe.
Yeah. All right. So here's my just like basic little compression thought.
Have at it.
Oh yeah.
So I'm at this point, and I will change this like next week or something like that.
Sure.
But right now, I've got very, very few situations where I want to use a compressor. The first one is if I have a very dynamic sound. Like earlier, I had a bass sound that kind of had a little bit of like a dynamic, like it was heavy, and then it was a little bit of another hump that came after it in the waveform. And that to me seems like a really good place to use a compressor to try and get it to be a more flat thing. And if I'm going to do something like that, I would heavy as fuck ratio, like 100%, whatever, or less, but really, really fast ratio, and then attack all the way down, super, super fast attack, and then
Right. You're not trying to grab
all I'm trying to do
transients.
is volume controls. All the idea is here, and then you just pull it down to where, if you want to keep some dynamics, you do, but it just cuts off the first little section and it just leaves the second section alone, basically. So you're trying to figure out like where's the balance point to have a very consistent audio thickness, like decibel range, like just to cut the decibel range off to where it's mostly a sausage.
Right.
You know?
It just doesn't go over,
Right.
at least.
Right.
Or at least getting
exactly.
closer to just consistent
Everything
level.
gets
Just
almost to the threshold if it doesn't get just completely cut off by the threshold and pushed down.
Right.
Right? So any of the lower level content in the sound is just barely touching the threshold. Everything else is getting pushed down, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So that's number one, compressor use. And then past that, like group processing, one compressor ends up on each little group that I have. And I mean, I'm not even putting one on my master right now, but
You're just going straight to the limiter.
yeah. Yeah. Which I'm sure I'll put one on my master eventually, but it's been fun trying to mix and not let my master chain be the thing that is making the mix work.
Right.
It's more I know everything. I limit everything first. It's already limited. It just needs to get a little bit extra limit together because when the frequencies clash, there are obviously little peaks and stuff that happen.
Right.
But if you sit there and do your mix good, like those peaks will be few and not that big a deal for the limiter to be pushing down on anyway.
Right.
At that point. And then at that point, a compressor is just a choice of like, do I want it to have like more of a groovy, like dynamic thing going on the full thing, or do I want it to just all sit where it already is?
Do you not use them to like push back reverbs and things like that?
I will use it for that, for sure. Yeah.
Word.
I
kind
kind
of
of
think
agree
about that the same though.
with
as
the
like,
utility aspect of it.
Right.
How you just described.
controlling volume.
I'm sorry.
No, you're
with,
good.
With the utility aspect of it, though, I agree. Like, I don't really use compressors for any other reason than like what you were saying right there. Or I use it as a creative tool or like a sound design tool. So I would kind of group in like heavily compressing like reverbs and delays just to give them like some of that shimmer. It's more like the
Right.
sound
Or
balancing.
pump. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more of a
So I definitely use it for
effect.
that reason. But
Yeah.
in terms of like any other reason, like maybe it's my soft clipper just because I like the soft clipping on the glue compressor in Ableton. But again, that's more tethered to like just being able to do like crazy distortion and crazy processing without blowing my ears out. And that's at a sound design level. But I agree. I don't really use a compressor for much other reasons than like that at all now that I think about it.
I would say the only other one would be to control transients. But that's similar to the first one. It's just specific to transient heavy things.
Right.
Which what you described, like a thing and then a lesser thing, and the first thing is louder, you're basically describing a snare or a kick or whatever. Like it's got a transient that's louder and then a body that's quieter.
Yeah.
And like, what do you want to do with that transient? Do you want it to come through and pop through? Do you want it to calm down? And like, yeah, it depends.
Yeah.
But a compressor is used for doing that.
So for that purpose specifically, the lookahead is the new revelation, or one new revelation. How the lookahead works is this: so the compressor sees the transient come in, it goes past the threshold, and then it takes the attack time to pull that volume down by however much it needs to get it down back to that threshold loudness, and then it has the release time. That's the time it takes to get back to zero. And then the lookahead, what that does is it just takes wherever that initial attack is, it brings it back by however much the lookahead is. So it goes backwards in time and inserts the attack in. So if you have an attack that is really fast, if you put like a 2 millisecond or a 1 millisecond lookahead on it, it will attack 1 millisecond earlier than whenever it hears it in real time. So it cuts off that's like the best way to chop off that transient, like
Right.
if you're using a compressor for that purpose.
Right. And you need it to be ultra fast in terms of no transient at all. You just want it to
Yeah.
kill it.
It's
You
like
just use
literally magic.
And like you don't really need a lot. Like the attack is already 0.05 millis.
Right.
And then look ahead, like you don't need to go to 20.
Because
Like
then you're just bringing delay in.
0.05 milliseconds. You should only need 0.05 milliseconds.
Right.
To completely take the transient away.
I think the shorter look ahead, the better, because then you're just increasing, like, you're doing it in a different way. Normally, I don't like long look aheads, like a 10 millisecond look
No,
ahead.
yeah. I mean,
I don't use
I've
them
never used them.
almost at all anymore.
Because I kind of just use whatever the most basic, the quickest one is without being, like, processor heavy.
Yeah, I only use it if, like, I'm designing a snare with multiple layers. On one of those layers, I might need to get rid of a transient without trying to, like, chop out the audio. Like, I don't want to do that. I'll just throw a C2 on and use a look ahead. But it's like that. That's basically it. Like, anytime I'm using a compressor, I'm going to want some transient, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time. But how you were explaining it is a neat way that you could creatively use the look
Yeah,
ahead.
no, for sure.
I've never thought of that.
That's just how it works. It's literally just how it works. It's like, if you want to get rid of that transient and have it attack fast enough, you just pull it back by a little bit and it will completely get rid of that transient.
And what's funny is it's making a duplicate of its
Yeah.
At
least C2 does it that way.
Yeah, of its gain reduction. So if you turn it to 20 mils, then it basically just takes its initial attack and release and just doubles it and scoots it back in time. So you'll have it attack and release and then attack and release again. It's really, really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like a whole other tangent. But you're like, oh, it copies it?
Yeah.
It's super weird.
It's super trippy.
Well, kind of has to, because it's processing ahead of the time that it's playing back. So hence the look ahead, right?
Right.
So it has to create a copy to play before the playback.
I mean, it could just internally extend the attack portion.
Right, it could just do the math.
But doing
Do you
it
think
that
that's
way
how the
just seems
DAWs
like
do it, though?
fast.
Yeah, I'm sure the code is like one line.
Yeah, it's super
Or
easy to
whatever.
code that.
Yeah. Instead of trying to extend
It just literally adds
a duplicate and
It almost adds like a delay.
it adds delay to your track in general, your
Right.
whatever it's called.
the latency.
But through
Yeah.
the duplication of that other thing and then
Right.
placing it ahead of time. I know it's not
Yeah,
a
because it has to
physical
move
delay.
everything backwards in order to give you that extra
Right.
bit of
to
look
move
ahead.
into
It's an
the
interesting
future.
way to use it, though. I never thought about that.
Yeah, it's cool.
Well, it's a really good if you want to do like New York compression specifically is like a really good way to use. Definitely put some look ahead on there so it's not letting transients through. Because
Right.
New York compression,
All you
you
want
just
the
want
pump.
that like pump
Yeah.
vibe out
All
of
you
it.
want is
you
the
don't
release.
Need the,
Couldn't you do the same
Transient.
thing with like a very fast delay, like echo or something, where you just like literally delay the signal going into the New York style compression by like a 64th note or like however many milliseconds the delay is, and you don't even need the look ahead?
no.
No,
That was a question. I don't know. Like,
No, because regardless, it's reading what's coming out of the delay. So even though the delay is later, it's still thinking it's on time.
Because sometimes I like to use the delay where it's just 100% wet,
Mm-hmm.
no wet effects, just 100% wet, and then like a really fast rate. If it's quantized, I think it gets to like 1/64th note. And if not, you can get into milliseconds. But sometimes I like to use the delay, especially within the echo, just kind of like scoop things over a little bit.
Right,
You
right.
know, like
Yeah.
Bitwig has a nice little thing for that. It's called time shift. Just drop it in, and you can move your tracks all over the place. It's
Is
like
it?
crazy.
I'm never coming back on this podcast again.
I know, right?
I feel like I'm being evangelized.
You might be.
Goddamn right.
Shout out Bitwig
Damn right.
if you guys want to sponsor
We'll
us.
come over to the dark side eventually.
Always 400
It's
official.
gonna be
at
like
It
me
does
and
look
Vic
like
at the
fun.
very end, though.
Go. Yeah,
Yeah.
There is. I'm glad you guys are learning it.
Yeah. I have no
Me too.
desire
Me too.
to hop
It's
on
amazing.
that though.
They do
Quite
some
yet.
weird.
Yeah.
They do some weird dick flexes often though. They're just
Every chance they get lately.
yeah. Just says it all smug too in a British
Look,
accent.
every time we bring up,
Big wig.
every time we bring up like any kind of producer thing, there's a way that Bitwig does it better, so we bring it up.
Yep. We're just
Because it
reminding
just
you.
works better,
Yeah.
and we're excited
yeah.
because we're like, hey, fuck off, Ableton. Mm-hmm. I mean, whatever.
I mean, if you want to sponsor us too. That's what I thought. Well, sick. That's a look ahead. That's crazy.
And New York style. Isn't that that's one of the presets for like the glue compressor or something on there in Ableton, right? I don't
So-
think I've ever
I'm
used
sure.
it.
It might be a
Yeah.
preset. The whole philosophy between like New York style compression is very much just kind of dual band compression. So like with your
Parallel.
parallel compression, yeah. So that's such a better word. I knew I was slipping. Thank you.
You got it.
I'm like dual band. I'm like that's not it. But it's just parallel compression, and like the only philosophy about that is just like having like a heavily compressed layer with certain settings. What is it? It's a fast attack and a slow release.
Yes.
And then just blend it into your drum track.
I've heard you guys talk about that all the time. I never knew it was a
Yeah.
New York compression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Brooklyn,
Brooklyn compression.
Brooklyn.
New York.
So it's
Those
super
rappers
easy. That's
really
just like when
putting
we're talking about New York style compression,
compressors
it's
next
just
to
that.
their dry signals.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
guess.
that's cool.
Right.
That's cool as fuck. I dig that.
But yeah, heavily the fuck compress your shit and then dry wet.
Yep.
And I think and back in the day, when they had soundboards and you had like less and less ways and like less and less tracks to do stuff with, it's an easy way to just fill in those spaces where like
Yeah, it's almost like reverb in a way.
almost
It like
yeah.
brings all the high end out.
Right.
It carries
It,
more.
it gives it
Or
like,
like-
artificial depth,
Right.
basically, in like a weird, interesting, slightly dynamic way.
Also something. It seems like it never leads to like any like phasing cohesion either, right? It always seems to like work correct, doesn't
Yeah, it seems to work great.
Yeah, it always seems to.
It's a good. That's a good point.
If that's the
you
technique
have-
you're using, it always seems to just kind of work.
I usually will pull the low end out.
Fair enough.
That's where the phase issues come in.
That's also
too,
where
a
you want the
lot of
sizzle
time.
and the drums, you know, like
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And plus, if you get rid of the lows, then you can saturate them on the way out.
Hey, speaking
saying,
my
bro.
language.
Hey, we like.
the same tone. I wonder who that was.
Yeah, I mean, we like saturating shit. What can I say?
Fucking all day long. Saturator all day.
Especially on the way out.
You know what I love that I figured out this week or whatever? The downward side of the saturator, the bottom of the saturator.
Oh yeah,
At least
tell
in
about this.
Bitwig, but it's like a wave shaper.
We can bring it up in M.
Dude, while you're bringing it up, I need to tell you guys, and you need to check out this VST Rift. Have you heard of it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I bought
Dude,
it.
you
Yeah.
did?
Yeah.
I don't
It's-
have it yet.
It's,
Oh, you don't?
No.
It's
no.
super solid being able to do
John
the
does.
bipolar
Oh, right.
and
John
wave
has
shaping
it.
that you guys are talking about.
It's super cool.
Dude, it's
a
wild.
bunch
Who
of
made it?
fun.
I
Somebody
can't
cool
remember.
made it, right?
It's on. It's a company that
It's
that's
like
the
a
only
bunch of
VST I have from them.
producers made it though.
Here,
But-
folks, we'll plug it real quick.
If we're gonna plug it, it's $79 right now, and like in a couple months, it's gonna go up to 150. And I'm using it on everything at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. It looks so cool.
It's super neat.
Is it Seppa who is saying he's using like this is how he makes all the
Maybe.
sounds?
Frequent.
Or frequent? Yeah,
It was
yeah,
frequent.
yeah. It was frequent.
Yeah.
Watch
So, yeah,
the
I bought
video.
it, and I've been using that, dude. This back to back with the trash, and then
Oh yeah.
just destroying,
So-
like macroing everything out to an
What's-
Ableton rack, and then randomizing those racks with just
Let's
like
go.
one button because they have Ableton 11 has the randomization buttons. Just randomizing those
That's
two
nice
back
track.
to back.
Oh, that
That's
sounds
cute,
so
Ableton.
sick.
It'd be so
Everything.
much easier in Bitwig.
Everything.
Yeah, and it could be modulated
Well, that's what I'm saying. You just modulate it. You
instead
don't even
of
have
clicking.
to
Yeah, what is
rack
this?
up.
Archaic.
You don't got to rack up.
Anyway,
I guess we're just dinosaurs,
so
Nick.
so what's crazy?
What do you do when you don't have a counterpart here?
Yeah, I know,
So-
right?
Real
Yeah.
question.
What's crazy is
There's
it's
nothing you can do.
it's just a plug-in. Like it's an effects rack, but it has like feedback. It has like everything a synth has besides a generator. Basically, it's basically a serum without the oscillators. Like you have all sorts of stuff you can put it on it: phasers, drive, a bunch of envelopes,
with
LFOs,
Drawable curves.
yeah, a bunch of cool stuff, and it's all just it's like a serum effects on absolute steroids, which is pretty sick.
So show them what's neat about like the positive and negative polarity, because that's what's very unique about it, right? Oh, I thought you had the plugin pulled up. I'm sorry.
Nope.
So go up to that one, the one above that. So,
No, this one.
yeah. So that's what's cool about it is
Oh yeah, yeah. I was screwing
above
with
the
this.
white line is the positive polarity of a signal's waveform essentially, and below the white line is the negative polarity of that. And then like you can morph them and change them
Wow.
independently from one another. And that's super
Interesting.
unique.
Yeah.
You want to know what's cool though? This one has it's like serum and it has the best visual representation of it. I've since experimented with trash. Trash also does bipolar like
Yeah.
Huh.
waveform
So does,
distortion. But
so
this
does-
one shows you it and it's super neat.
So does most
Okay.
wave shapers. You just have
Yeah.
to change it to asymmetrical, and then it'll affect the negative polarity, which Ableton's wave shaper does not.
Wait, what is asymmetric? It changes it differently from
Yeah,
the
yeah. So I switch over here on this wave shaper, which is free, folks. You hit asymmetric, and now the crossover is the dot, and now everything I do underneath is going to affect the bottom, and then everything up top. Will
That's
affect
super
the
neat.
top.
Can you do it on the Ableton saturator?
No,
There's no asymmetric on it.
I don't think so. We go to
I feel like it's one of those boxes. No.
no. It
So,
does,
and
you-
wave shapers
you can let
dope
it have
too,
its
then.
period though.
I didn't know about any of this shit before I got ripped. And that's kind of
Oh yeah, dude, the wave shaping is the shit. Wave shaping is the absolute shit. But I usually don't work in asymmetric. It's usually
it's super neat. And then,
Asymmetric means that when it goes above, it does something different than when it goes below, right? Yeah.
don't know.
where right now we're in just
Sounds
like
right, though,
normal,
David.
and this is going to do the same thing on top and bottom.
It's the difference in like the speaker is neutral. When it goes forward, you get something different than when it goes backwards.
I get it. So the wave shape you were just doing when it's not asymmetrical, that's the top and on the
and
bottom.
the bottom. It goes
Yeah,
like
And then
this.
when you go
You know.
asymmetrical, it turns the halfway point to the
To
middle
right
of the
here.
graph. Okay.
Right.
Yep.
That makes perfect sense.
Yep.
Well, sweet. Learned
And
something.
also, yeah, if you turn the asymmetric off, so if you on your high end, especially if you pull out some of the lower volume things, oh yeah, word, hell yeah, this is 0 decibel. This is infinity 0 right here. This is 0 decibels, right? So we're going up. This is 40. Blah blah blah. So this, if we pull this out, here, how do I do this? So if you do something like this, that's kind of center right
yeah.
there. So this would be normal if it was going straight across. That means as it goes up, it continues up in the exact thing. This is 0. If you have a shape like this, it means it will not make a sound until it hits this point of volume.
Which is like -10 or something like that.
Yeah, right now.
it's like a weird like pulse.
Yeah, so
Saw or
it'll
something, right?
it just won't let any noise through until you get to this point, and then it lets all the noise through, and then it will stop it from getting volume here, right?
Right.
And it's really cool on high end because you can get rid of kind of any kind of lingering crispiness by kind of taking out whatever amount of
Below
volume.
-10, basically.
Yeah, or whatever it is. Yeah, I think I usually like something like 20 or 30,
Wow.
where it like pulls out, and then but at the same time, I'm probably more like this.
Yeah.
You know, like not letting everything in, and then letting it in, and then taking it out early.
That's interesting.
Yep. Yep. That's pretty similar to mine, although I will do this at the top, like this, and I'll soft clip or not,
Right.
kind of thing, and then I'll just increase my input and my output into make sure it's going up against that line.
In which case, you would want to bring it up that. But if there's sub in there, it's going to be bad. It's going to not sound good.
Right.
If you have
Because
enough
if the sub's louder than that, then it's going to hit the shaper.
Because the sub is like
the
not
loudest.
there, and then until it hits 10 decibels, and then it all of a sudden is there, it makes shitty sounds.
Yeah. That's
Really, really, really high pitch weirdness.
I've never used wave shaping that way. I always use it just to fuck shit up.
Another fun thing to do is in the middle of the sound coming in, you can do some like super weird shit. Oopsie. Whoa, it's just adding points. There it is. So you can just add like a sign in the middle of it, which you'd be surprised how much fun you can have.
Dude, it's like a sinoid fold. That's like my favorite thing to wave shape with.
But it's like not on the quiet part and not on the loud
That is
part.
what
It's
it is,
only
huh?
in the medium. So you throw a dynamic sound through there, and that dynamic sound is going to go
It
through the
transforms
quiet
it.
into the sine fold, into the loud clip, and then back down. And it's cool. It's pretty fun. It doesn't always work, but when it works, it's like, oh, what? It's so weird.
Yeah.
Like, what's happening?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. These things. Shout out Melda Productions. You can Google that. Download their free bundle.
Oh
It
yeah,
is
they're just
fire.
slaying it. Yeah.
Fire. They're a little weird to like get used to, but there's plenty of tutorials online to get acquainted with
Yeah,
them.
they're really great plugins.
Yeah, they're really nice.
All right, we done?
We are indeed done.
Is that an hour already?
I know,
folks.
Wow.
I need to come to one of the feedback ones with y'all.
This
You
Saturday.
should. We're doing it this
Because these
Saturday.
always just like go quick, and I know you can't talk about like geeky shit for fucking 3 hours, but something a little bit more like
Low key while we're smoking a joint.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just get
yeah,
high
yeah,
and
yeah.
fucking.
Hey,
That's like
Yeah.
we're
yeah.
roasting one while we do it.
That's this Saturday. So
Yeah, if you want to come.
You're welcome.
If not,
yeah.
you have to wait another 2 weeks. Because we only do it bi-weekly.
Always
no
400.
rush.
Hey,
but it's just like these always just go by so quick for me.
do you want to
Thanks
go ahead and
Thanks for having me.
yeah
It's always
shout
dude.
shout out your artistry.
I make music under MiMi XX. You can find it under MiMi Music with a Z and a K on everything. But let's be real, I'm about to switch names in the next couple of
That's
months,
fair.
and just wait for that.
And he's going to come out with some absolute slappers.
Yeah, let's
So be ready for that, everybody.
Absolutely.
just wait for all that.
Yeah, they're going to be sick. I'm excited.
All right, folks. Thank you so much. Go ahead and get subscribed, follow all the things at Always 400 Official. Shoot us emails with questions. At Gmail.
Saturday feedback stream.
Yeah, we'll see you Saturday.
Woo!